Nice shot. Nice. Holy fuck. Holy fuck.
One enemy remaining.
Nice spawn. Oh, that was sick.
For a long time, the Duelist meta has been pretty stale. It's been monopolized by pretty much just 3 agents. A trinity of Jett, Raze, and Reyna. With the rest of Duelist struggling and begging for help. With the exception being Yoru, who has only recently joined the picture for pro play, but still not very popular in ranked. Riot recognized this as a problem, and has slowly been working on solutions to an issue that has been plaguing the game for a while. They promised the beginning of changes with patch 8.11, the first big pass to the Duelist role for Riot. Buffs were targeted at 2 of the most underperforming Duelists, ISO and Neon, while Raze received some light nerfs and Reyna got a slight rework. With only a few days into the patch, we're already starting to see players gathering experience on the patch and forming their own differing opinions. From players exclaiming that Neon is broken, and players split on, is Reyna super buffed or did Reyna get nerfed? Well, so who's right and who's wrong? I've been playing a lot of the changed Duelist this patch, and I've also watched a lot of top players test out the new changes, to form a solid idea on how the changes are actually panning out. So let's go over together the agents one by one and look at what's changed, what the consensus is, and my thoughts about each agent and the biggest winners and losers of patch 8.11 actually are. We'll start with the most talked about Duelist this patch, Neon. Let's go over a quick overview of the changes. Neon's fast lane has gotten a shorter duration on the wall, and the wall fades slightly slower at the end of the duration. For Neon's high gear, Sprint, she gets faster movement side to side, and the fuel regen rate is actually tripled. For the slide portion of the ability, instead of just 1 slide charge, Neon can now purchase a 2nd slide charge for 150 credits. She's also much more accurate while sliding, and she can shoot faster out of a slide as well. And lastly, for Neon's relay bolt, instead of 2 charges, Neon only gets 1 charge that she can purchase. It has a faster windup, and it stuns for longer to compensate. So everyone's freaking out about the Neon buffs, and I think they are great buffs, but the nerfs to her relay bolt and her fast lane actually hurt a lot. Relay bolt being 1 charge means she's worse for stalling on defense and creating space safely on offense. This change is not as impactful in solo queue, but I think this will actually hurt a bit for her pro play viability. Fastlane also has a shorter duration, going from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. The ability is already pretty tough to use, but a 4-second smoke for 300 credits feels pretty tough. I feel like the new duration makes it a lot difficult for your team to actually follow up with you in uncoordinated settings like solo queue. And for more coordinated settings, it gives your team a lot less time to actually cross large distances. Now, to compensate for both of these nerfs, she received a lot of love in her slide and her sprint ability. You can do some absolutely crazy things, and I think this will help a lot of the Neon 1 tricks in ranked. But I don't know if this will actually help the average Neon player base. Buffs directly helped all the things about Neon that are rewarded by high skill and agent mastery. And her team-oriented abilities all received nerfs or negative changes. A lot of people are happy with these Neon buffs, but outside of the fuel regen rate, I fail to see how these buffs actually help the average player base and make Neon more of a viable pick in pro play. She kind of just seems like a Smurf demon now.
The buff's good enough to help me in rank? Yes, 100%. If you have good aim, Neon buff is really good. The aim, if you have good aim, it helps you a lot.
And maybe as time goes on, people will find a lot more uses and generic uses for her slide, but we'll have to wait to see. The next agent I want to talk about is ISO. ISO didn't receive a lot of changes, but the one change that he did get is very significant. Double tap his signature is now a 1 charge ability instead of 2 charges, but you can refresh the ability after you get 2 kills now. Instead of having to get a kill and shooting the orb to get a shield, ISO now gets his shield after a 1-second animation upon activating the ability. He still gets the orb reset mechanic if he still gets a kill though. And he's also slowed less when his shield breaks. Now these are way less changes than say Neon got, but in my opinion they're way more impactful to ISO. Being able to pop your shield whenever you want gives you so much more consistency in your ability to approach the round. You also get some cool things that you can do now, like guaranteed popping your shield into an ult, giving yourself an advantage every single time you ult now, instead of it being more of a 50-50. This makes ISO really scary. As soon as you hear the audio of ISO activating his shield, the enemy now has to be a lot more scared and be much more respectful of ISO taking that space. When he combines this with his wall, suddenly ISO becomes this juggernaut that bulldozes his way into sight. This feels extremely scary for ranked. I assume that ISO is actually going to be one of the best duelists for ranked play at higher elos. He honestly feels scarier than Reyna with his ability to pop off consistently every round. Now, it still has his weaknesses. I think as people get used to playing against ISO, they'll start reacting to his shield audio with Molly and other utilities that will break his shield, or even just wallbang him through the wall to kind of try to break it. And for lower ranks, I think ISO is still good, but probably not as good as in higher ranks. I think ISO scales very well with aim, and the better people are at aim, also his shield gets extremely better against those players as well. But in lower ranks, people tend to go for body shots, and that gives ISO a lot smaller of an advantage than, say, people that can only land headshots. I actually think for pro play and coordinated play that ISO might actually have a niche now as a primary duelist. While Jett and Raze can entry with movement to deal with Sentinel utility, ISO now has 2 defensive abilities he can use on demand in order to brute force his way into sight. Against agents like Cypher, I can really see how ISO can take this space in a consistent and meaningful way. On Sunset, for example, if ISO was trying to take B, he can use his wall in one direction, push out to break the trip with the cover of his wall, and his shield activated, giving him a lot higher chance of actually surviving. Against other Sentinels though, like Killjoy, I think he'll struggle a little bit more towards those types of Sentinels, since Killjoy has a lot of utility that deal at least 1 tick of damage, and that will break ISO's shield very easily. Now, I don't think ISO will be meta the same way Raze and Jett were meta, but I do think with these small changes that ISO becomes a lot more unique and actually has a place depending on what the composition is. Now on to our Empress, Reyna. Now Reyna received a few changes. She now heals for less with her Devour, and she also heals slower. You also move a lot faster during your dismiss, but it lasts a shorter duration. And the overheal and her ultimate, Empress, now lasts until the end of the round, instead of just 30 seconds. When these changes were first announced, they weren't received very well. The community has some strong opinions about Reyna, and Riot promising that they're going to make her worse for solo play, but better in coordinated play, gave people pretty high expectations. But when people saw these buffs, it really felt like nothing much was going to change with Reyna. If anything, people just thought Reyna was strictly just worse. But once the patch hit live, people started to see the real value in the changes to Reyna. Specifically, the movement speed on dismiss. The speed in which you move during dismiss is so much faster. It allows you to do some crazy things, and it's just hella fun to use. It allows Reyna to play at a lot faster tempo during chaotic fights, and dismiss during Empress feels amazing. The extra speed combined with the invisibility gives you way more options and where you want to reposition. Now, the Devour change is definitely a double-edged sword. 50 health versus 100 means headshotting Reyna is a lot less important than before. Before patch 8.11, if you triple body shotted Reyna, she'll heal up to 130 HP, meaning you still need 4 body shots to kill her. Now on patch 8.11, she'll only heal up to 80 health, meaning she dies in 2 body shots, which is a pretty huge deal. This creates way more situations, especially in lower elos, where Reyna doesn't essentially full reset after every kill. This is especially noticeable in rounds where she uses her ultimate. The duration changes to both the overshield and her ultimate, though, are actually really nice, and more impactful than I thought. A lot of people hold on to Reyna ultimate. I'm sure you've been in games where it feels like your Reyna hasn't popped their ultimate for 4 or 5 rounds in a row. And after playing Reyna, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. Popping your ultimate kind of gives away your positioning and your timing intent as well, and if you pop it and people don't push, then you feel like you've wasted your ultimate. Or if you pop it in the middle of the round when the round is essentially already over, you feel like you wasted your ultimate too. Now, you can just pop it at the beginning of the round. And sure, if nothing happens, that's fine, but at least you don't have to worry about what the best time to use it is anymore. The overheal lasting the full round now is also nice, but it's not as great as you would think. Because you only heal 50 now instead of 100, there's going to be a lot less situations in which you actually overheal anyway, and you might just heal your regular health. This change only really becomes noticeable when you're using your ultimate and you're popping off, because at least during your ultimate, you're guaranteed to heal over and over and over again, and even if you use Dismiss instead of Devour, your ultimate will always heal you no matter what. Overall, I think Riot actually accomplished what they wanted to do with Reyna in this patch. They wanted to make Reyna way less impactful in lower elos, while still giving higher rated players something better to play around in coordinated settings. They knew Reyna was still going to be a selfish agent for the most part, and they didn't really want to change that part of her identity. But Dismiss, now having a lot more things that you can do with, checking corners a lot easier, and playing around cover just a lot smoother and better and cleaner, while lower level players don't have to worry about a full HP Reyna that they have to headshot every round. It feels really nice. Now, the last agent to change was Raze, and she didn't receive too many changes at all. Mostly just to her satchel. Her satchels are now louder. You move slower while satcheling. And satchels now no longer do damage or knockback as long as you shoot them. Now, don't get me wrong, the nerfs to Raze's satchels do suck and make some of her more ridiculous tricks impossible. But she's largely still the same in her normal use cases. Satchel is still hands down one of the most flexible abilities in the game, and Raze just has so many top tier abilities in one kit. I really don't see how she's not going to be the best duelist unless they buff all the other duelists to her level or straight up remove chunks of her kit, like only having one charge or satchel or something. Overall, I still think Raze and Jett are going to be the queens of the duelist role in pro play for now, so not much has changed there. But for ranked, I definitely see a lot of shakeup. I see ISO now being the premier ranked demon, with Reyna being taken down a peg but still really good in ranked. And I think the changes to Neon will make the one tricks and Neons look like literal smurfs in their ranks. But I don't think that it will make much change for the average player in pro play. And Raze mains, I think you're perfectly fine. Keep playing the character like you've been playing and you're gonna do fine. Now there's still one more agent in this patch that got changed that I didn't talk about, and they're pretty much a duelist anyway. Clove. Clove got a nerf to pick me up, and it was pretty big. Pick me up is more expensive, lasts shorter, and you have less time to activate it after a takedown. They also received some changes to the ultimate. Your ultimate now costs 8 orbs instead of 7, and it re-equips weapons slower after you come out of it. Clove was insanely strong for ranked, but not considered a good pick in pro play. The nerfs hurt a lot and solidify them as being more geared towards pub stomping. The cost nerf to pick me up really changes Clove's pistol round. They now have to go classic plus half armor because pick me up is just simply too good to pass up on pistols, and you still need to buy your second smoke. Frenzy also works. You can still buy pick me up and a smoke with Frenzy, so look out for that option on attack rounds. I can see how the nerfing the cost is pretty justified, especially in pistol rounds, because Ghost plus being able to overheal for 100 is really strong early. I just wish they didn't nerf the duration. It's already a pretty short duration, so I feel like this makes the ability a lot harder to use properly, especially in more organized settings. But Clove was extremely strong in rank last patch, so we'll just have to see how it pans out this patch. Well, that's it for the changes, but I want to know, what do you think? Do you think I'm just completely off base about the Neon changes, and she's actually a lot better than I think she is? Or maybe you think I'm just on complete copium when it comes to ISO, and he's not nearly as strong as I think. Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below.